All right. So first order of business, things we need to be super solid in is comma usage. Now, comma usage sounds like it's, we're learning how to do commas. What's that going to do for us? Complex sentence structure is the foundation for you being able to express and have complex thoughts. If you can't write with sentences that have multiple relationships, multiple parts to them, you can't have those types of thoughts and express those clearly in your writing. Most of the time, if I were to say to you right now, write a thesis statement out, I would imagine 99% of you would go to the good old list. Thing A is right because of reason 1, reason 2, and reason 3. And when you limit yourself to that sentence structure, you limit the nuance of what you can talk about. So, for example, if you just say something is right because of reason 1, 2, and 3, you are only presenting a world in which your opinion is the right opinion. And as you know, when you engage in larger thought process and you think about big picture problems, there's multiple sets of facts out there that run counter to each other. Does that make sense? The easy way to think about it is like a Republican-Democrat thing. Do the Republicans have thoughts that are fair? Yes. Do Democrats have thoughts that are fair? Yes. If we just try to argue in this silo and ignore everything else that's going on over here, then you're not being a reasonable, thoughtful person who is genuinely engaging in the world around you. So being able to have the ability to write a sentence that has a compare, a contrast, a cause-effect relationship in it really opens you up intellectually into thinking about some stuff that's beyond just, so-and-so fired first because of reason 1, 2, and 3. If you think about your Lexington and Concord paper, is there an absolute fact who fired first? No, there's not. So it would be disingenuous for you to say so-and-so fired first because 1, 2, 3. Now, you get around that maybe by using the word, it is plausible that so-and-so fired first because of reason 1, 2, 3. But even when you do that, it's kind of the same old shady game. So we need to know how to use these things so we can have complex sentences equal complex thoughts equal complex thinkers equals wonderful complex human beings. So thing number 1, intro phrase, comma. An intro phrase is always triggered by a certain word. So there's words that exist out there that when they appear in the beginning of the sentence, 100% of the time will be followed by an introductory phrase. Those are words like if, once, although, even though. And one that everyone always clutches their pearls at a little bit, the word because. Mr. Lindenberg, I can't start a sentence with because. You're wrong. You can. You just need to know how. Now, when you use these words as the first word in your sentence, 100% of the time, an intro phrase will follow. To provide an example, raise your hand if you know what an intro phrase, comma is and what I'm talking about. You, right there. Give me a sentence that starts with the word if. If
dogs are cute. Oh, you want me to finish it?
Yeah.
If dogs are cute, then we should get one.
Okay. Okay. All right. So, sentence. Where does the if part of this sentence end?
After cute.
After cute. So 100% of the time, a comma goes after cute. Now, the word if, in addition to triggering an intro phrase, is also used to communicate a fun relationship. What's the relationship between this part of the sentence up here and this part of the sentence down here? Relationships are things like compare, contrast, cause, effect, adding things, and just do cause, effect. What's the cause?
Cause that dogs are cute.
And the effect would be? Now, this isn't like a hardcore cause effect in the word like sense. Okay, this sentence changes a little bit if I use the word sense, which is another intro phrase word. If I said, since dogs are cute, we should get one. How is that different than saying, if dogs are cute, we should get one?
Well, since reaffirms affirms going to be acute
Mhm.
rather than if, which just puts out the possibility.
So these are both cause effect. However, this one is putting out a little bit more of a qualifier than using a word like since or a word like because. If I use the word because dogs are cute, we should get one. That is also cause effect, but it's a little bit more declarative than using a word like if. Does that make sense? So all three signal cause effect, but there is a subtle nuance between how intense the cause and the effect are based on what intro phrase word you use. Now, should you lose your mind about understanding the difference between if, since, and because? No. Just know that if you're doing cause effect, one of those words would be fine. If you want to go to a place where you know the difference, that's great. A word like although suggests what type of relationship?
This thing, but this thing.
Which is contrast. Yep. I use the word although or even though, contrast. If I say once, how does that sentence going to play out? What? Once upon a time, comma, there lived a blah, 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 blah. Once you saw through a person's spine, they are easier to fold in half. Okay? So kind of like steps in the process, all sorts of fun stuff. Take 2 minutes, write down a sentence that utilizes an intro phrase. If you haven't already, I'll come by and just make sure you're slapping commas in the right place and we'll move on. Since my spine was sawed in half, I am easier to fold into.
More
Even though my spine was sawed in half, I can still feel my legs. All sorts of fun commas. And raise your hand when you got it. Just want to make sure. Good. 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 You're not like single down, sorry. Good. Yeah, but all the graphics.
Take it for too long.
Good. All right. Hero shows the Dolphins trick. Yeah. Good. All right. And then if I didn't read you, I'll catch you in a moment. All right. The next order of business is the noun appositive, abbreviated NA. Noun appositive means you rename a noun. A noun appositive is not able to stand alone as a complete sentence. Oftentimes, noun appositive starts with words like the or a. You cannot start with a word like is or any other linking verb. And noun appositives are generally used to give more info about a noun. It's a great way to reaffirm a complex idea. You could state that complex idea in simple terms, and then you could use a noun appositive to add nuance to it. Also, you can use a noun appositive if you're ever introducing like the name of a source and you want to give that person some instant credibility. A noun appositive is a great way to go. So an easy way to think about that is Mr. Lindenberg, an expert football fan, predicts the Dolphins will win the 2021 Super Bowl. Matter of fact. All right. So,
Some of the-
my noun that's being renamed is what? Mr. Lindenberg. Now, what is Mr. Lindenberg being renamed as? An expert football fan. So this is renaming this noun. So I put commas around that bad boy. So whenever you're renaming something, renaming a noun, providing more information about a noun, you want to put commas around that. Now, if I said the movie It was super fun to watch, what noun is being renamed there?
The movie.
The movie is being renamed as.
A super fun.
Now, so do you need to put commas around it?
No.
No. Okay. Don't ask me why. If you're just saying the movie It, okay, let it roll. But here I'm giving more information about a person. We want commas around that thing. Another way to see a noun, a positive comma. What happens if it appears at the end of a sentence? We found the murderer. Tate. Okay. What noun is being renamed? Tate. And what noun is being renamed?
The
The murderer is being renamed as Tate. So what do? Put a comma after murderer. What? Oh, I can't put a second comma in there. Is that okay? Yeah, that's fine. Okay. In this case, the period is functioning as the end of the sentence and the second comma. So you're good. Now, like a fun way to think about this is all right. Here's a fun one. See if you can crack this code. An idea that's popular among serial killers, that an icicle is the perfect murder weapon due to the fact that the evidence melts, is useless to serial killers in Arizona. What is the noun that's being renamed?
The idea that is popular among serial killers.
So the idea that's popular among serial killers is being renamed as what? What is the idea?
An icicle is a perfect murder due to the fact that the evidence melts. Yeah.
It goes all the way until where?
Melts.
Yeah.
Is.
Boom. So here we got a mega noun, a positive. Can this stand alone as a sentence? No, it cannot. If I eliminated it, here's another fun noun, a positive test. You eliminate it, and the sentence still makes sense. An idea that is popular among serial killers is useless to serial killers in Arizona. Does that sentence make sense, even though information is incomplete?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so here my noun, a positive is being faithfully used. Now, so an example of using a noun, a positive, in this case, the noun, a positive is longer than the root sentence, and that's fine. Okay, but I'm just jamming a bunch of fun, relevant information in here. What I want you to do quickly, write a sentence that uses a noun, a positive. If you want to be a little edgy, try to put that noun, a positive inside of an intro phrase. So 2 minutes, yeah, I know. Is that edgy stuff? And raise your hand when you're ready. Say, let me have a gander. Good. Good.
Here's the first one.
Good. Good. Now I gotta read 97 of these sentences a day, so if you could add a little more flair, some of you, that would be great. Yeah. Sounded like very interesting.
Yeah. So like Kate, comma, like where's that?
This is the kind of part
Is it really annoying?
That makes sense? Mr. I, the teacher that isn't nice, finally retired. So the teacher that isn't nice is the positive. So you put commas around both sides of that. Yep, I know. I saw it. Yep. And, so good. The positive is the town leader, right? So you'd want to put one there. However, Levi, the town leader, is kind of similar to like the movie It. Does that make sense? You know, so if that was the case, you would erase this concept. So you either have to put one there, so that it's all inside one, or you have none. So which one? Have some patience. Good. You give me a hard time because I got a deaf dog in here?
What?
I got a deaf dog? Give me a hard time?
My dog.
Your dog's deaf?
Yeah.
So is mine. Hey,
The dog buddy.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot.
Well, still like
Oh, yeah. She's flashing the sensors. Good.
Oh, yeah.
You want, it's like the book, comma, a story about love and romance. All right, moving on. Fine, check it. I'll have a chance later. Not a big deal. So we have intro phrases, we have noun and positives. Okay, makes a ton of sense. Next up is our good friend, the coordinating conjunction. Not going to ask you to write these. Just want you to be aware of a couple of things. Coordinating conjunctions are your fanboys. F stands for
And, nor, but, or, yes, so.
Okay, now when you use these in a sentence, just like a noun and positive, you are triggering something. At the very least, you're triggering a relationship between the beginning of and the end of your sentence. If you're using the word but, what's going to be the relationship from here to here? Contrast. This has to contrast that. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. If you use the word so, what's going on? Cause and effect. If I use the word or, I like chicken or steak. Two options. Yet, contrast. Okay? Nobody uses the word for, nobody uses the word nor, so don't worry about that. Now, what you need to know, if you have a thing that stands alone as a sentence, you have your coordinating conjunction, and you have another sentence, 100% of the time, you need to put a comma before your fanboy. Otherwise, you have a run-on sentence. So if you have sentence, fanboy, sentence, comma's got to go there. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you have sentence, fanboy, something that's not a sentence, you never put a comma here. Otherwise, you have something that's called a comma splice, and you grow up to be old and lonely, surrounded by no friends or family on your deathbed. Does that make sense? Okay. Sentence, what has to go here? Comma fanboy. Sentence, not a sentence. Does anything go here? No. And then for whatever reason, over like the last 3 years, 10% of people always put the comma after the fanboy, and I just don't get it. Doesn't mean, just don't do it. Otherwise, that you won't even have a peaceful deathbed to be on. You'll die violently in some sort of shark accident. So coordinating conjunctions. Last order of business before we kind of cruise on is the list. Now, a list, you have item 1, item 2, you have a word like and then item 3. In journalism, it goes comma here, no comma here, because this is something the class is preparing you for, like academic writing, college writing. It's called an Oxford comma, and 100% of the time a comma goes there. So if you're using a list, make sure you're including this comma before the last item of your list. Now, some of you might say, hey, Mr. Lindenberg, thing number 3, I like pizza, chicken, and tacos. Tacos is not a sentence. So how on the earth can I have the word or a comma before the word and? And you know what? You're right. English is stupid sometimes. When you're doing a list, though, the comma does go there. There's 2 types of lists, a simple list and a complicated list. A simple list is what you're used to, thing 1, 2, and 3. A complicated list is like steps in a process. I found a rabbit in the forest, caught it in a trap, nailed it to a stake alive, and skinned it in front of its rabbit children, period. Okay, so none of those individual steps stand alone as a sentence. Is caught a rabbit in the forest a sentence? No, it is not. Is nailed it to wood in the forest a sentence? No. Is skinned it alive? No. Is threw the rabbit guts in front of his baby family? No. Okay, so if the steps in your process are not complete sentences, you're in great shape. If you have steps in your process that are complete sentences, well, now you have a sentence next to a sentence. So what do you need to do to connect those 2 sentences? Right now, you just know one of 2 things. Thing number 1, you could put a period. Thing number 2, you could put a comma and a fanboy, and that would be legal. Does this make sense? Commas. Now, you're going to need to deploy these things meaningfully 100% of the time, for the most part, whenever you're writing a topic sentence, whenever you're writing a thesis, whenever you're writing analysis. Generally, 100% of the time, you're using a combination of these guys in your sentences. Now, with that in mind, for tomorrow, you have one of 2 options for your homework. And that kind of depends on whether you fancy yourself to be proficient at comma usage or whether you fancy yourself to not be super solid in this yet. Option number 1, you write a sentence that uses an intro phrase, comma. You write another sentence that has a coordinating conjunction, another sentence that has a list, another sentence that has a noun, a positive, and then a 5th sentence that combos all 4. Okay, so you're working up to that. Okay? If you are someone who feels like you're a super genius, then just do this one and be done with it. But if you just do that one, that bad boy better be correct. Otherwise, I'm kicking you out of school for the next, I don't know, ever. And you won't graduate, and then that's life. This is a hardcore assignment. It's for your enrollment in Somerset. So if you are a comma genius, just do this one. Come to school and you're fine. Or if you blow it, see you later, bye. If you don't fancy yourself a comma genius, please do these and then take a crack at that. Does that make sense? All right. So that's part of your homework for tomorrow. Second part of your homework for tomorrow. This is all on Google Classroom. So if you become confused or if I go too fast, it's there. Now, you know thesis statements and topic sentences. Just a couple of things I want to emphasize before we take the next step. Number 1 is that thesis statements and topic sentences 100% of the time are specific, strongly worded, and they have a so what in there. Do you know what those 3 things mean? Specific, strongly worded, so what? Okay. Now, what differentiates a thesis statement from a topic sentence? A topic sentence will be more specific than your thesis statement. Okay, so if I say thesis statement, Dedinger is a nice guy, so he has a lot of friends. The first topic sentence is going to be about what? He's a nice guy. Now, I need to make that more specific. My first topic sentence can't just be Dedinger is a nice guy. Okay, that's not specific enough. There's no so what in there. Okay, so how do I make that more specific?
Why he's a nice guy.
Why is he a nice guy?
He gives candy to babies.
Gives candy to... That's not a nice thing to do, babies. Cannot eat candy. Been hanging out with one for like 6 months. Kid would die. Not a nice guy move. Opposite of that, Denninger is a psychopath and doesn't have many friends. Let's play around with that one. Denninger is a psychopath because he gives hard candy to young babies. Okay, so there, I'm giving a specific example to Denninger being a psychopath. Okay, good. Now, my next topic sentence. Okay, Denninger is a psychopath, so he has no friends. Is it okay to say Denninger doesn't have any friends? Why not? Okay, all right. It's not specific, and other quality of a topic sentence. Okay, it has to be more specific than a thesis, and it has to transition. That's a big one. Topic sentence needs to transition. What special word appears in my thesis? Denninger is a psychopath, so he has no friends. The word so. What type of relationship is indicated because of the word so? Cause effect. Do I got cause effect in sentence 1? Is related to the thesis? No. So I have to put that in topic sentence number 2. How could I start topic sentence number 2 with an intro phrase to capitalize on that cause effect relationship that's mentioned in my thesis? Since he's a psychopath, he has no friends. Or if I wanted to keep the use of the word so to keep things consistent, Denninger has killed several young children, so nobody wants to be his friend. Period. Hey, does that make sense? Okay. Yeah, just ramped it up to 11. So if we take a look at this thesis statement, this is on Google Classroom. I would like for you to just give this a read. If what I say in the next 5 minutes doesn't make sense, give this a read and read all these comments over here. I'm kind of explaining what's good and what's bad about this thesis statement and these topic sentences. Thesis statement. While the judgment of E-Step can certainly be called into question considering his past exploits, his honesty is his greatest quality, and therefore he must be believed when he states that he wasn't at the scene of a crime. Now, if we know this stuff, we can crank out topic sentences in 5 minutes. What does the first topic sentence have to be about based on this thesis statement? Ooh, no. What's the first thing mentioned in my thesis?
His judgment.
His judgment is being called into question considering his... First thing that pops up in my thesis, first topic sentence. Okay, so how do I make that more specific? I give an example of a past exploit that does what? Makes his judgment questionable. What would be an example of a past exploit that would make his judgment questionable?
He gave candy to
Gave candy to young children. Yeah, absolutely. Mainlined soda into a young baby's bloodstream. Okay, so making it more specific. Now, topic sentence number 2 has to start in one of 2 ways. What word is in my thesis statement that gives me a signal for how I have to transition in topic sentence 2? Oh, how about this? First question. What does topic sentence 2 have to be about?
Honesty is his greatest quality.
Okay, so how am I transitioning? What? While. The word while suggests what type of relationship? Contrast. In this case, I'm contrasting the fact that E-Step is giving young babies candy with what?
That he's helping the woman across the street.
No, that his honesty is his greatest quality. Okay, so how could I start that second topic sentence? Nope. You can start it with while. While
He gives candy to babies.
why his judgment is questionable, while he is giving candy to babies, comma.
Honest and great.
Okay, or somebody do it for me with fanboy. But yeah, so his judgment is questionable, but honesty is his greatest quality, as evidence in the fact that he turned himself in for receiving a winning lottery ticket, whatever. Now, what is the next word that signals some sort of funky transition with my last topic sentence? Therefore. What type of relationship is queued up by therefore?
Like an answer. It's like
Workshop the word therefore in a sentence. Blank, therefore, blank. I think, therefore, I am. What? Cause and effect, right? So how can I start a third topic sentence with an intro phrase that signals a cause effect is coming out? It's an intro phrase word that's going to give me a cause effect. No, although it's contrast. Therefore is not an intro phrase trigger word. Because, what's the cause in here? Because he's honest, what's the effect of that? Must be believed. Another cause effect word, sense. Sense he's honest. Blah, 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 blah. Let's say I want to use a coordinating conjunction. Which one would I have to use? So, he's honest. So, blah, 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 blah. All of that is predetermined, preordained, based on what's going on in the thesis. So if you understand the special words that you're putting in your thesis, it's really easy to lock in topic sentences. And once you have your topic sentences locked into place, it should be easy to draft a paragraph. But we're not to that point yet. Does this make sense, one and all? Okay, so tomorrow you have those sentences for me. Also on Google Classroom, there's a link to AP Lang memory article number 1. Looks like this. If you read this already and you feel great about it, great, just come to class. If you're foggy, skim it. And if you haven't read it before, please read it for tomorrow. Specifically, I'm going to ask you some questions tomorrow related to the last 2 paragraphs in this article. Boom. These fellas. So if you're a little foggy on it, make sure at the very least you're giving these guys a read and you have something to say about it that makes it make sense. If you come to class tomorrow drooling, I didn't understand it, have a thought. So read these things and try to figure those last 2 out. Make sense? Yeah. All right. See you later, crazy kids. Have a good rest of your day.
Wow, I actually